All right. Good day, good day. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning, America's number one dispatcher and freight broker training. It is Tuesday, the 13th of May, 2025. This is our freight broker one-on-one training for beginners. Hello, Vancia. How are you doing? If you are there, I see On Point Logistics. You are muted, but I just want to see how you're doing. Checking in. It's been a while since we've been on a live Zoom recording. So we wanted to see how everybody's doing. Okay. Hey, Mr. Ellis,
Hey,
how are you?
dealing with a sore throat, but other than that, I'm all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, me too. I'm coughing a little bit. I swallowed something down the wrong, you know how you down the wrong pipe.
Uh,
So yeah, but look like you're out here walking or something, enjoying the sun.
well, not actually, late morning, late afternoon, I'm at the car wash.
Okay.
I usually come here in the morning and I'm back at the house getting ready for everything else, but I just got over here. So, but good thing is they're empty pretty much. Well, not empty, but wasn't no cars ahead of me. So I ain't gonna be here that long.
Is it a hand car wash?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like mine.
Yeah, they run it through the machine and then they bring it out and do all the sterilization and everything else on the inside and out.
Okay, like auto bail.
Yeah. That what they I don't know if that's that what they call it?
Well, I don't know the name of mine is called CJ's. CJ's hand car. I have my own, so
No. Okay. Oh, you mean that's the name of the company. This is actually a Chevron, but they have a car wash attached to it.
okay.
Yeah, they do details, electronics, boats, motorhomes, they do everything.
Yep. We do that. Um Tractors, SUVs, stuff like that too.
Oh, okay.
So, want to get you guys' input a little bit. Just want to talk to you a little bit. I know we've been gone a while, so I'll kind of phase ourselves back into the groove of things. As far as these tariffs, what's your opinion of how it's affecting the industry? What do you think?
Well, me personally, kind of hard to say. Again, it just depend. I guess it depends on the product, and obviously everything is with China, but uh, I guess they came to some sort of agreement. I just saw like was it yesterday?
Yeah, like 30% or something like that. 36%. It going
Uh,
down from 100 and whatever it was to 30.
yeah, I mean it's basically playing a game of chicken, which is whatever do what you're gonna do. I mean nothing stays the same forever. Eventually, it'll get worked out one way or another. You
But
know,
who loses? Who loses in that game of chicken though? Don't the
well,
consumer?
tariffs always get passed on to the consumers. We know that. So it's just going to go from one consumer to the next and eventually hits the common man.
Yeah. So as relates to what prices and the cost of goods sold and things like that, or
Right, of course, and businesses, having to close because they just can't afford to keep up. And it's always the smaller businesses, obviously, they might be doing okay, but not as well as some other bigger businesses that can actually weather these kind of storms.
yeah,
And I look at it like this. I don't know if back in the day, what was the Rockefeller theory? You know, just eat up all the small business.
that's
Get
right.
them,
That's right.
get them out the way, and you don't have any more competition. So in a situation like this, I mean, it's deeper than just buying this product versus that product. There's stocks involved on a lot of this merchandise. These companies that have these things. So what happens when stock drops? People come in and buy these stocks low, and then eventually when they go back up, they make a killing.
That's true.
So then, like I said, it's not as simple as they try to make it out to be.
Yeah.
just again, how well versed you are in, everything that's going on that's attached to it. Aside from, like I said, it's just, products that, bought and sold and eventually kind of get, passed down to, the customers. It's a little bit more to it than that. If you ask me, I could be conspiracy theorying it all day long, but, you know, having heard a few things here and there, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. You start to go, well, wait a minute, hold on. What's the reason for this anyway?
Hmm. Vancia, you're unmuted. Vancia, On Point Logistics. So, Mr. Ellis, I agree with you and all those aspects and those points you made. Tariffs, or another word for it is duty tax, things that are taxed that are taxes on imports, right? Goods
Uh-huh.
and services coming to the country from foreign countries selling their products in another country. They're charged to do that. Certain now Trump's argument, or Trump's case, is that um for years foreign countries have charged the US, or were overcharged the US, by a substantial amount. And now it's our turn to charge them for bringing their products into our country so that we can stabilize the economy.
Mhm.
That's his argument.
Right. But now here's the thing. Well, and that could be the argument. Question is, does he really know? Or who else do you have part of your cabinet that would say something like that? Because a lot of that stuff kind of just gets put in people's ears and they just kind of repeat what they're hearing from somebody else. One, and two, and then do we actually know what we've been paying all this time up to this point?
Well,
You
some of
know,
that stuff,
because again, in most cases, as far as I'm concerned, when you got proof, you put it out there, just to make your argument. But when you can say that, okay, but then what have they been? What have you been getting charged? And how has it affected the economy? And whatever way that you say is not good for this country.
right.
You know, I was, in fact, I had to, just forgot about something. I had to deal with an insurance company hit my cousin's car. Hit my cousin's car Sunday night, Mother's Day, as a matter of fact. Um, and I put in a claim. So then they called me back to just like, oh yeah, that policy wasn't or the person didn't have active insurance at the time. I said, okay, so that's fine. But they want to deny the claim. I said, okay, that's fine, but give me some proof. I said, when was the last time they recovered? Oh, we can't tell you that. Okay, but then how do I know that? You can tell me anything. If
Hmm.
you proof, you would say, well, look, here's what it is. Lay it out there for everybody to see. This way, you don't have to worry about people questioning whether or not you even telling them the truth or not.
Right. So now let's put it in the perspective or the narrative of what we do, or what we're trying to do as uh, freight brokers. How does this tariff war or this trade war have an effect on us trying to be freight brokers?
Right. Right. Well, as far as brokering, well, again, if these items aren't being brung in, because you got this tariff war going on, no product is being moved, which eventually does what? If it ain't being brung into the country, then it's not being moved where it needs to be throughout the country. So, that slows down. So, of course, that affects brokering because, again, what are you going to ship?
Right. Right. So yeah, yeah, if nothing's here, you can arrange for it to be transported. Right. So that gets into freight forwarding and then customs brokering. It starts up there before it even gets to a freight broker. A customs broker or a freight forwarder has to touch it at some point. Arrange for it to be brought in through a shipping line, whether it's Maersk, OOCL, or Hapag Lloyd, or whoever.
Right.
And then it has to clear customs, border protection, CBP. A customs broker has to do a booking and all these other things to get it into this country. Then once it's here, in the containers and it gets to the ports, it has to be picked up and drayed somewhere, drayage, intermodal process, and let's say it's at a warehouse for storage. Then it needs to be arranged and last mile delivered to its final destination. That's probably where a freight broker may come in at and arrange for a truck to come and get it,
Yeah.
you know. So there are other steps prior to the broker getting involved too that are most people not aware of, but are just as important also.
Yeah, that's the trickle down theory, right? It starts from one area up top, and then it's kind of trickles its way all the way down to the like you said, the last mile, which is obviously between the broker and the carrier, or the shipper and the broker and the carrier. And if, like I said, if nothing is going on up top, then obviously it never even trickles down to us at the bottom.
Right. So how can we, because at some point this is going to end and swing in the other direction where there's going to be an influx of goods needing to be,
Yeah,
a backlog needing to be
yeah.
delivered.
That's what I just had that conversation. I said, yeah, it might like as of now, short term is one thing, but eventually when it all ends, like I said, you have a backup and you got all this product that needs to be moved. So it's just going to be crazy because you got to have, the capacity or know enough people that can actually get these products moved to where they need to be, in a timely manner. Because at that point, people playing catch up. They want to get all this stuff out to the market so they can sell it and get back the money that they may have lost. So it could be a boom. It could create a boom at some point, depending on how long it lasts, and how much impact it has on all these different companies, that have these products that need to be moved.
So from a broker's perspective, how can we position ourselves to be prepared when that moment comes?
Oh, yeah, you stay in contact. You contact the shippers. Obviously, and if you got that relationship already, or you kind of keep your name out there. So when that does happen, and like I said, even if they're working with, let's say they have people that they're already working with, but because they got such huge overflow, they need extra hands or trucks. To get this stuff out there, just to kind of like get caught up with everything. So that's how that affects the broker.
Okay. Vancia, On Point Logistics. Are you there? I see her. Vancia, you're muted. I want to. Hey, okay. Have you been listening to the conversation?
Yes, I have.
What are your thoughts?
I don't know because I don't know the industry. So on this side, so what could we do? I guess just stay vigilant, keep our name out there. Try to continue to build relationships and I guess find a niche until things pick up.
So I'm glad you said that. So even so, you're speaking from the perspective of someone who's just coming in and don't even know the industry. How can even you or even that person be at an advantage when things start to influx and open back up once these tariffs are lifted? So even a person of your ilk, right, of your level, of being a beginner broker, how can you strategically position yourself that will be advantageous for your company, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you want to understand what your specialty is, your niche, what industry what commodities you want to move, I guess that can be based off of where you are, where you live, what area of the country, what zone you're in, what moves,
Mm-hmm.
what equipment types move in that area. If you want to target that area, you don't necessarily have to target your specific location. You can go because brokers can broker all over the country, but
Mm-hmm.
be advantageous to physically start in your area because you're physically able to get to those facilities and talk to those customers in person and make a better
Mm-hmm.
impression. It's good to make a better impression in person than it would be over the phone because you're like right face to face, eye contact, and you're having a conversation. They can see who you are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so when the tariffs do finally lift, basically how do we position ourselves? Because right now everybody's just waiting. right? Waiting and seeing what's going to happen. They're like Trump and China. Basically, it's basically Trump against China. They're playing chess right now. One's moving the queen. You got to move the rook. You know how chess is played. So they're just doing that right now. I'll take my dog, you take your cat, I'll take my basketball, you take your bat, and back and forth, back and forth. It's like they're like kids, to be honest with you. That's how kids do, children. So, but it's just on a global scale, just on a
Let
global.
me ask you a question. Who
Yes.
do you think has the most power?
Oh, China, of course.
I know.
I was
China.
just gonna say.
Now,
Yeah,
Well,
that's
Mr.
first,
that
Ellis,
was my
Mr. Ellis,
thoughts.
what do you think? Why do you think it's China, Mr. Ellis?
well, first of all, it's you got to look at it like this: the age of the country. Well, we know the U.S. is what? Was it 200 and some odd years old as an established country, as the United States. China's what? 3,500 years old or something like that. So they're light years ahead of us in terms of established country. They're so well positioned with everything that they have over there. They really don't necessarily need to do business with this country. They
True.
can do
And
business everywhere in the world. It just so happens that, because, the US dollar carries a certain amount of weight, it's good business to have. But if you want to start playing games like this, it's like, well, we can wait you out.
Now, remember
yeah.
this too. Remember this too. There is that so China is one of the countries that's going to or is trying to unite with other foreign
Hmm.
powers and create their own world currency. So there's an acronym called BRICS, BRICS, right? So
Hmm.
I think the B is Brazil or Britain, the R is Russia, the I is India, the C is China, and then the S, I believe, is South Africa or something like that. Or
Okay.
so
Yeah.
Britain. Those are the powerful nations. They're trying to unite and form their own world currency and limit. Their goal is to eliminate the value of the dollar, the dollar, the U.S. dollar, which is, to be honest with you, the U.S. dollar has no value. It's backed by nothing, right? I don't know if you guys are old enough, but to remember, but August 15th, 1971. August 15th, 1971 is when President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. The dollar,
Mm.
the dollar used to be backed by gold. It's backed by nothing right now. It's a debased currency. It has no weight. Nothing backs the dollar. The only thing that gives the dollar value is that we say it has value.
Right.
It's backed by
Mm.
nothing. There's no gold. So if you take your dollar and go and there used to be an exchange process, right? The exchange of currency, right? The dollar is a note. You would turn in a note and you would get a piece of gold in the value of the note that you had. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be like that, but that no longer exists. So the value of the dollar is backed by nothing. It's just paper. The ink
Yep.
that's used to print the paper dollar is worth more than the paper dollar.
Yeah, that's why he said, was it dimes they said they was gonna stop making, or the penny? The penny they said they was gonna stop making because
Well,
it costs more to make it than what it's worth.
so when it comes to value like that stuff, gold and silver, the coins are more valuable than the paper dollar.
Mm.
You know why? Because gold has been around forever. Gold has
Yeah.
been back in Africa. We would trade Mansa Musa, the richest
Yep.
man who ever lived
Yep.
in Africa,
Out of Mali.
Al Mali, when he did his pilgrimage to Mecca, he
Mhm.
every place he entered, he changed their economy because he had so much gold.
Yep. He just
He
gave
just
he
ruptured.
gave out money. That's all he
He
did.
gave out so much gold, he changed it. So gold is still valuable. Gold is very valuable.
Yep.
So gold is not going anywhere. Gold, silver, those are like
Yeah.
precious metals.
Precious metals.
They're not going anywhere.
No.
So the value of the dollar, that's why these countries they're backing their stuff. Now, until recently, there was a time also. Here's another history fact that relates to this. Um, Saddam Hussein. The reason he was murdered is because he was trying to get other African nations to join him and create one world currency in Africa backed by the resources in Africa, which is
Wait, hold on. Are you talking about Saddam Hussein or are you talking about Muammar Gaddafi?
Muammar Gaddafi. My fault. Muammar Gaddafi. That is
Yeah.
correct. I stand corrected. Muammar Gaddafi tried to get the heads of state in the other African nations to join forces to create the one world currency and back it by the. Why do you guys think the Oppenheimers and the De Beers are over in Africa raping the resources over there? The,
Well, here's
the
the thing.
minerals.
As far as the Beers go, you remember now, because the Beers, where they were in bed with the Rothschilds before the Rothschilds became like this big thing. But before that, they got established from Sebastian Rhodes, the Great Britain guy who had 90% of control of the world's diamond mines in Africa.
Cecil Rose.
Cecil Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes, yeah.
Yep, because you ever heard of a Rhodes Scholar?
And Rhodes, yeah, they named
Scholars,
it after him, but they changed that because remember his brother went on trial for high treason. They were going to actually execute him, and then during that time when Cecil Rhodes had all the diamond mines, he controlled what 90% of it, something like that. Where they were chopping off hands, they were just doing all kinds of. That's where the term blood diamond actually came from.
That's what term blood diamond came. That's correct. So if Muammar Gaddafi would have succeeded in this, it would have crippled the U.S., China, Russia, all these Britain, all these so-called world powers. Because remember, Britain, their currency is backed by nothing. The U.S. currency is backed by nothing, right? The yen, the British pound, all these different currency exchange that these countries have, they're not backed by things that are worth more than the precious metals that are in Africa, the gold, all the diamonds and things like that. So if he would have united that, they would have had their own currency and wouldn't have a need for anyone else and been independent. So the powers that be said we cannot allow this to happen. So he was assassinated.
Yep.
Okay. So now I know you guys like wonder, well, what the heck does this got to do with freight brokering? Well, the point is that we're making is with
It's
the
the economy.
tariff, the economy, the tariffs the tariffs have an effect on the world market.
Yes.
When things when goods and services are exchanged between countries, there's there's tariffs charged on that, right? So now we're at a standstill as brokers because we have to wait and see when it stops, because then there's going to be an influx of goods having to be delivered to their last mile destinations. And that's the angle we have to approach to come back in and say, okay, now we're here, we're prepared, we've been waiting this out while you guys play, with each other and act like kids. Then once you decide to open this stuff up, we'll be here to arrange for the transportation of these goods now, because I know all these customers are having a need for these goods to be delivered at cheaper prices now. You lowered your prices now. So that's what we are. Vancia, you was going to say something. I thought Vancia was great to speak. I'm sorry. But yeah, so
Oh,
it's
I'm sorry. I'm muted. Sorry.
go ahead.
While we was on the subject, I was gonna ask what's I'm trying to understand why he bringing over white Africans.
Well, first of all, they're not Africans; they're Dutch. Because remember, the Dutch came, they invaded, and they came just like South Africa around 1652 when they first started coming there. So Elon Musk is actually Dutch. His father, Harold Musk, was a part of the apartheid South Africa, who had an emerald mine during that time.
That's correct.
And people look at Elon like he's some sort of genius. No, he's basically a privileged child of an apartheid South Africa. So
I was gonna say he act like he crazy.
yeah, well, so what actually happened? So what ended up happening was that the the USA, they want to cancel that because that had a lot to do with bringing apartheid to an end in South Africa, and he didn't like that. So now, and so what you have also too, so the birth rates of Europeans compared to everybody else in the world. So in the U.S., for example, by 2043, it's going to be a majority minority country. So because people that are European aren't producing as many kids. So their birth rates all over the world, if you look at Italy, France, and everywhere else, all these different European countries, their birth rates have declined in such a drastic way. So what they're trying to do is just basically, as Dr. Francis Cross Welsing would say, is they just trying to, self-preserve, and they're doing everything that they can to, to preserve, quote unquote, their whiteness.
The ISIS papers.
ISIS papers.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's basically survive and conquer kind of thing. But
Yeah, well, survive, and we hanging on to what we got left.
right. So these tariffs though, these tariffs, it's kind of an indirect overshoot or indirect effect of some of these things, but I don't I see something of Trump's logic and why he's doing it, just a little bit. Because he's saying, well, it's been entirely too long that the US has been paying too much tariffs to the foreign countries. It's time for us to charge what we need to charge. Because when they bring their products into our country, we give it to them and we charge them a cheaper rate. But when we ship our manufactured goods overseas, they charge us an abundant rate. So we're
Well,
losing.
but also too now. But here's the thing, though: this country doesn't produce much of anything
That's right. That's right.
other
So a
than
lot of things
soybeans.
they've been out. So a lot of companies have went overseas, outsourced their labor because it's cheaper and they get a better rate and all these other things. So yeah, a lot of if you notice in the past 25, 30 years, well, a generation, which is about 25, 30 years, a lot of manufacturing facilities have been shut down, shipped overseas, all the labor and stuff. A lot of things are done online, all these other things. So it's almost like the country is imploding
It
within itself.
cannibalized itself because what happens is too. Because now remember, again, when you actually have something that you produce here, you have leverage. So them tariffs are kind of ineffective when you have a product that you produce here that you ship. But if you don't, and you're at the mercy of always having to import goods, you don't export much of anything, you don't have the same leverage.
Mm.
Right. So now, as a perspective from a broker, if we would have better leverage or we would have a better advantage if we were working with countries who manufactured their goods in the US and shipped it around the US, as opposed to
Yeah.
trying to get with countries who are shipping their goods out of the country, right? Now you got to deal with customs regulations and international law and things like that. So yeah. But that's what I want to
I
talk about a
thought
little bit.
that's what we were doing, though. I didn't know that we were at the liberty of other countries. I
Yeah.
thought we was
US
the supreme.
we don't export much of anything.
So there's a term that's used, GDP, gross domestic
Mm-hmm.
product,
Gross
right?
domestic product.
It
Yep.
determines it determines the economy, it determines the rate of things. Sometimes inflation is based off of GDP and other things, but um, our GDP is low because we don't have a lot of domestic products. So to have a gross domestic product, meaning that we don't have a lot of domestic companies manufacturing products to be sold
Mm-hmm.
in this country. We we have we have companies that manufacture products, but most of that stuff is shipped overseas, or we have companies who are overseas, US based, but have moved overseas their production facilities to make products and then ship them back to the country.
So it's all been an illusion. We're not as
Oh, no,
powerful
no,
as
no.
we've
That's
been
that's not an
portraying.
illusion. That's not an
No.
illusion. We can see that clearly.
Yeah. Plain as day.
That's plain as yeah, that's clear. So that's not an illusion. It's just that most of the citizens don't pay attention to that thing because we're too busy. We order from Temu, which is a foreign country. We order from
Mm-hmm.
Actually, China.
yeah, we order from there's a company in China. I forget daggone what's the name of the company. It's the Jack Ma.
Shane,
Sheen and Jack Ma owns this one. Jack Ma is a Chinese billionaire. Daggone it. The name escapes me now. It's a big company. Once I say it, you be like, oh yeah, I know that company. But these companies are overseas. They order from these companies a lot. Even Amazon is considering outsourcing and moving facilities out of the country because of, the GDP and what's going on. So,
Wow.
but it's a good thing that Amazon is building. So Amazon is trying to monopolize the industry in the sense that they build fulfillment centers and warehouses all over the country to
Yep.
control the logistics of the country, the last mile delivery and things like that. Because when a person orders something from Amazon, it's expected to get delivered when they ordered it, right, on time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
they've strategically placed fulfillment centers and warehouses within at least 4 to 500 mile radiuses of each other, so that stuff can get delivered when it said it's supposed to get delivered. So
So would you say Amazon is a freight forwarder?
Amazon has freight forwarding capabilities because they do international trade. A freight forwarder is someone who consolidates freight and ships it in the same direction, either by plane or ocean, an ocean line, or a ship line, or an ocean or an airline, um, or sometimes rail too. A rail line can be international too because there are rail lines that go from the U.S. to Canada. Canada's an international
Yeah.
country, so,
Yeah.
and in Mexico also. So yeah. But Amazon
Hmm.
does have freight forwarding capabilities. They're not a large freight forwarder like Forward Air or these large ones, but
Not yet anyway.
that's why I say that they're getting there. So, but
But
Amazon,
they gonna do Amazon like they doing Facebook right now.
well,
Well, Mark Zuckerberg.
I doubt it because Amazon is keeping America afloat, if you will, because they're one of the largest in-house manufacturing companies that ships and controls things domestically.
Yeah.
And they set up contracts with carriers like Amazon Relay and Amazon Flex, Amazon Relay for the box trucks, Amazon Flex for the sprinter.
Hmm.
So they're giving contractors the ability to be their own bosses. So they're providing a resource, right? So as a broker, you can utilize Amazon Freight as well. You just got to be able to know how to target that, you know. If you get in good with Amazon from a broker's perspective, and you're able to arrange for your carriers and provide capacity for Amazon, then you'll be okay. But Amazon is one of the few companies that is doing it domestically and doing it well. Everyone knows Amazon.
Yeah.
So you go to
Yep.
Amazon website, you got a subscription, Amazon Prime, go to the website and you got a subscription Amazon Prime and he can go do anything. So,
Hmm.
but again, from a tariffs perspective, which is what I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight, um, when these tariffs lift, we just got to make sure that we're in the right position as a freight broker. Those of you who have your authority, if you haven't gotten your authority yet and you're working towards your authority, at least you can hear this, right? Um, how do you position yourself to be prepared when this is lifted? And a lot of these shippers and customers want their products yesterday. You know, it's like because there's going to be a backlog. There always is. So this situation is not an exception. There will be a backlog. How do we handle it? How do we position? What do we do? How do we handle it? How do we position ourselves? Of course, having the knowledge is one. Being prepared is also one. Mr. Ellis, you have any input on that?
As far as positioning,
Yes, sir. Positioning, being prepared, having the
I
knowledge.
think see, a lot of this depends, and I could be wrong here, or just kind of lazy in thought. Um, the old wait and see approach, as opposed to kind of like seeing what particular products are being affected by these tariffs. Doing that research to see, okay, the supply and demand on all these different products, okay, and how the tariffs is creating this slowdown. You start with that. So, for example, if it's lumber or steel, okay, so okay, let me research that. Let me see how the lumber and steel market is doing right now based upon these tariffs. If there's a slowdown due to X, Y, and Z, it's like, oh, okay. Now you start looking at the companies. Okay, well, what companies are, you know, taking the hits right now?
There you go. There you go. There
And
you
then that gives you something to some people to contact. So you, okay, well, if it's this particular company here, let's see who do they shipping and so forth and so on. You know what? And obviously take the old cold calling approach, contact, their traffic manager, and try to get that relationship going, or at least put your name out there to where that when things turn, or better yet, you ask them, are they busy? No, and if that conversation leads to, anything about having to do with the tariffs, they're like, oh, okay, well, when this is over with, do you guys have the capacity to get caught up and get caught up in a timely manner? They say no, or if they say yeah, or they're not sure, either way, leave them your contact information just in case. So when that day does come, guess what? Or you can do it, or and of course you got to pay attention to the news too, because again, these people can't always keep up, and they're not keeping you top of mind anyway, just because they got a whole lot of other things going on as far as their business is concerned. But in the event that they are, then great. But if they're not, that follow up is important, just to be on the safe side. If you, as long as you're up to date on how things are moving as far as the tariffs go, then you can contact these people and be like, look, hey, how's it going? Hey, oh, you guys need any additional help? Whatever the case may be. They say, yeah, good. If not, then, maybe when they experience, a rush of some sort, then, they might give you an opportunity.
So that all leads back to, for me, everything you just said, one word, which is knowledge. Having the knowledge of knowing how to do everything you just said would go a long way for you as a freight broker.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know, what industry to target. You have to know what they're looking for. You have to know how to approach them, and you have to know what to say in order to get the response that you desire.
Right.
So there you go. Vancia, what about you? On Point Logistics. What are your thoughts about that?
The same. I mean, I had a question about what he said when he said to find out what the commodity is, who's taking the hit, and how do we go about finding out um who their shippers are?
You said,
Like how we get another company's business.
right.
Where you go?
He's right there. He switched over. That's all.
like
Well, how do you get
like
another company's business? Well, sorry. Um,
well, when I say business, I mean how do I get up in their business? How do I find out?
you talking about a contact? Yeah, I mean, like again, that depends on if you have a database. Like for example, I have Industry Select that's got all these different industries in there, and there's a way to Charles has shown me that you can research them down to a T to something very specific. And
So,
again, it's going to require some additional legwork on the part of the broker. Obviously, having to do research of just how tariffs are going, first and foremost, and seeing what actual companies and industry is being affected by it and how much so.
let the software
Me.
assist you. You just have to understand
Mhm.
how to navigate and use whatever software you're using, whether it's a load board, whether it's a CRM, a database like Industry Select. You just have to understand how to navigate that software to find and look for what you need and to give you what's called analytics. So you want to get analytics first. You want to get the pulse of the industry from an analytical perspective. Then you'll be able to target certain things because the analytics is going to give you certain numbers and certain results. And then you take that information and then you create your niche. Because analytics pull data. It pulls real-time data to give you what's going on, the pulse of the industry. And then you take that pulse and say, okay, I think we're going to go in this direction because I see in this region of the country that this is going on, and there's a need to move this type of commodity or whatever, right? That's what analytics does. But you have to know how to
Okay.
use the analytics and the software to your advantage as a broker, whether it's a load board, whether it's a database, a CRM, a TMS system, whatever you're using, right?
Hmm.
So those are the things. So that's where it goes back to the word that I was thinking, knowledge. You have to have the knowledge. You have to
Hmm.
understand how to properly navigate and utilize the information you have. So,
So that's where you come in at, Charles.
yeah. Well, right now it's kind of a I don't want to say a challenge because of the tariffs, but I guess for lack of a better word, I guess that's what it is because the tariffs kind of put things at a standstill. Everybody's waiting. All the big industries are waiting. All the little people are waiting because they're seeing if they're going to survive.
Hmm.
And then the big companies, they're just floating because they can afford to float because they have so much resources and money. But all the mom and pops are scared
We've
to
been
death.
losing some people too.
They're scared to death, the mom and pops. Now, but from a so we have as we as freight brokers have an indirect um worry or concern with this because we're unknown. We don't know which way to go yet until the tariffs have lifted and we get more data as to what's going on as far as shippers needing their products moved to their last mile destination customers. Once the tariffs are lifted, then you're going to see the influx of data. You're going to get all the analytics, and it's going to say, okay, uh, cotton needs to go here, or lumber needs to go here, or pipes need to go there. And then you begin to target your area as a broker and start reaching out to the customers and saying, hey, I know I can provide you capacity, or I can provide you trucks, or I can streamline your processes and get your products to your customers efficiently and quickly, you know. So, but again, the one word is knowledge. Knowing how to do this, knowing how to do that, knowing how to do this. So, but Mr. Ellis broke it down pretty good, utilizing like for example, the software he has, he and I have been going through it from time to time. It's called Industry Select. Industry Select is a beautiful software because it gives you, man, once you learn how to use the features correctly, it gives you real-time data down to the email, phone number. I mean, the firstborn of a customer where you can call them and get their information and speak to them. So that's another point as far as knowledge. You just got to understand. But watch the evening news. Keep an eye on the economy. You know how at 6:30 at night we have the evening news with what's that, Lester Holt. And I watch it every now and then. It talks about the economy and things like that. What's going on with the tariffs and the Trump administration. I watch that. I used to watch sports a lot, but I decided, well, sports is not paying my bills, right? And sports is not providing me information that I'm going to need as a freight broker to better my company. So I said, well, I'm gonna start watching the evening news because it's giving me insights into the direction I need to go, right?
I'm sorry, you said that software was called Industry.
Industry Select. Are you on a computer? I can bring it up on the computer. I can,
Yeah.
okay, I can share the screen and Industry Select. Let's see if I
Okay.
can. So think I still have Mr. Ellis's login, and I do.
Hmm.
Right here. So we're logged in. With your permission, Mr. Ellis, if he's still
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I'm here. Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. So we're logged in. So we're on the main page of Industry Select, right? There's several things you can do. You can build a list, a shipper list. You can manage a database that you already have active. You have resources and tools like training videos, common questions, things like that. And you can do a performance search. You can basically search for a company. So, and then over here to the side, the dashboard, you have you may have looked up some companies before and you saved the data because they were good companies. You saved contacts that from those companies, any notes you made of that company, those sales companies, any list of multiple companies you have under save list, any new alerts. So if you got a company or if you got a search criteria that you want to be alerted on, alert me when a new company pops into the database, into industry select that has this type of commodity or has a need for this. So you under new alerts, as you notice, Mr. Ellis, I've been studying a little bit more. Um, so that's what new alerts come in at, right? And then omitted, obviously, if you want to remove someone's new data, updated data, so on and so forth. So you can do a search. Let's do a performance search. We can do a build list. Let's build a list and clear all active criteria. So here is we want to build a shippers list. Right now, from the bare beginning of this industry select database, you can
Well,
build.
real quick, Charles, you see right here that upper right-hand corner where it says 88,589 companies. That's how many companies are in this database that I have right now.
And that's what I was just ready to say.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So there are 88,589 companies in Mr. Ellis's subscription of Industry Select based off of the criteria and the subscription he purchased. Okay. So when you get with an Industry Select representative, they will create for you what's called a profile. And you tell them what you're looking for and things like that. So they'll get you started with a what's called your framework. They'll get you a framework going because every broker is different. You may have a certain need different than another broker's need, right? So whatever Mr. Ellis told them, uh, they built the profile, they built the framework, and they decided when they finally gave him his login. Right now, there's 88,589 companies that meet Mr. Ellis's criteria of what he was looking for as a freight broker. Now we want to drill down and look for a specific company out of that 88,589. So you can search for a company by state, the region of the country, right? Any metro areas, county, city, area code, so on and so forth. That's by states, regions. So let's say, where are you from, Vancia? What state are you from, Vancia? On point.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what state?
Let's say Louisiana.
That's where you're living at right now?
Yeah, I left Texas last 2 years ago.
Okay, so Louisiana. So we'll put Louisiana. Right? Louisiana. So as you type it in, it auto populates, right? So notice what
Mm-hmm.
happens to 589, 88,589 when I select Louisiana. Louisiana was added, so it went down to 1,259 companies because those are the companies that
In the
are
area.
in that state
Okay.
according to Mr. Ellis's criteria. So now that's just so let's say you want to look for shippers in Louisiana. That's the geography portion of it. Now, what industry? If you look at the far left, you got the different category. You can look for shippers in a certain geography, which is the state, region, metro, county, and all that stuff. You can look at them for a certain industry that you want to look at. I'll select the industry, whether they have a SIC code, which is a standard industry classification code, a NAICS code, which is a North American Industry Classification System code, a business classification, or an industry standard or organization, ISO. You would have to know the company. You can go to Google and do a search for any company's code, their NAICS code, SIC code, just do the Google search. But the size of the company, executives, what position do they hold? So let's say, and it's going to combine all of these categories. So I'm looking for right now in geography, all companies that are in Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, 1,259, who
Mm-hmm.
have who have executives with the title of, since we're in brokering, we're going to say, let's say they are in either shipping and warehouse. Is that close to what we
Okay.
what we do? Is that close to
Yeah.
shipping and warehousing
Mm-hmm.
of those? Okay, so we're looking, so of these categories on the far left, we want all shippers in Louisiana, okay, who are of the function or the position of shipping and warehouse. So right now it's went from 1259 to 49 companies. What about
Mm.
title? What is their title? We can call them shipping manager or whatever, right? You can go to size, you can go to advanced, So you look, you can go to advanced and now get even more granular or more detailed, I should say. So let's drill
Mm-hmm.
down a little bit more. Let's go to our advanced button. So we got Louisiana under geography. We got shipping and warehouse under executive. Now we go to advanced, we'll say, okay, location types. Okay, all companies. Let's say manufacturing headquarters. You want to choose that, or ownership types, or do they import raw materials, areas of distribution? Let's say just domestic. Okay. So now we went from 49 to 33. We don't want international companies. We want to stay US, right?
Yeah.
Then let's say you want to get even more specific. Let's say you have a certain niche. You like a government contractor or a federal contractor. So you only want to look for minority owned companies, or you want to look for women
Oh
owned.
Lord.
You
It's
want to
gonna
look
be
for
one.
women owned companies or veteran owned companies, right? So you can get even more specific as you go through the criteria.
Okay.
But
So let me ask you this.
go ahead.
Is this the system? I was working with Chasa, and she told me to give her some quotes. Well, give her what le- what that lane runs. Would would that be because she was trying to get together a quote, to get a contract or whatever. But would I get that because I had to ask her. I said, "Well, what am I doing? Am I looking on the load board and just seeing what that lane normally runs on different load boards? How am I getting that information?" So
So
I'm figuring that's how.
this is not that system. This is not a load
Okay.
board. This is not a load board. This is a database of companies, shipping companies, or manufacturing companies based off of the criteria that you're looking for them under. You wouldn't get quotes from this software.
Okay.
It doesn't have numbers in here. Only numbers it
So
has.
this is just to find the companies to reach out to the logistics managers or the manufacturers or the warehouses to try to talk to them to try to get a contract.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So and then you want to be as specific as possible. So now we got 33. Let's say you want to stop there and just say 33, right? And so if you want to see who they are, you just click the 33 companies. Boom. And now it gives you the list of those 33 companies. 33 is a small number. We can right there. So you can go and it looks to be in alphabetical order, if you notice, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all in Louisiana, and then all the people are shipping and warehousing according to our category executive, and they're all of these companies right here. So let's choose one. Choose one. Just out of curiosity, pick one.
Let's see. I'm close to Shreveport, so if I had to drive out there, let's try number two.
Number two. So let's select that one. So now I don't know if you've seen the pop-up screen that popped up or not, or no.
It went away real fast.
Okay, let me share that pop-up screen that just popped up. Because once you select the company, now you see this pop-up screen, right?
Okay.
You shared what popped up. So now when we click that Shreveport company, this is what pops up. Okay. It gives you information about the company, their contact information, where they're located, their physical address, their mailing address, their phone number, their website. Okay, you can view it on the map. Down here under company information, how many employees they got? 36. What are their annual sales? What do they make? What do they gross a year? $1 million. Okay. What's the square footage of their warehouse? 43,000 square feet, less than 50,000. When was the company established? 2004. Distribution area, they're regional. So their products, they only ship out regionally, like the tri-state area and stuff like that. So Louisiana,
Mm-hmm. Probably like Texas,
Texas,
Arkansas.
correct. So they're regional. They're a public corporation. Imports, they get imports they get their materials imported to them. Now, let's go down here to product service information. Right now, so what they do, pharmaceuticals and medical products. That's their business classification. Here's their SIC code, here's their next code. So they're in the pharmaceutical manufacturing. Okay, so now you wouldn't have known this if you wouldn't have got this information, right? Now let's
Exactly.
go to the who should we contact? Okay, so right under executives at this location, here are two people. Who do you think of the two? Which one do you think you should likely contact? Either Miss Nikki Bland, which is the director of supply chain. Her function is management, shipping, and warehouse, or Mr. Robert Bland. They're probably married or sister and brother, the plant manager, management, operations, and plant manager. Which one do you think you probably should contact first,
Robert,
based off of their function? I'm thinking
shipping and warehousing.
that's right.
Miss
Shipping and
Nikki.
warehouse. Nikki, right. He's the plant manager because anything he's going to do, he's probably going to delegate it to Nikki because she's the director of the
Mm-hmm.
supply chain. So she controls the movement of the freight because she's shipping and warehouse. So as a broker,
Mm-hmm.
from our perspective, we need to contact Nikki first. Probably Robert's probably Nikki's boss because he's over her. He's management, he's operations, and he's the manager of the plant. She is management and shipping and warehouse. So probably the guy. And then here's her LinkedIn profile. Here's her contact address. You can add it to your you can export her contact information to your address book, and you can add and remove this person from the save. You can add her to the contact list. You can make yourself a contact list. You can go through these 33 lists of people and add each person you need to contact to a contact list, and then go in the contact list and create yourself an email campaign or a text campaign and send out one message globally to all of them at the same time. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that word again, I kept using knowledge. You have to know what to do. You have to know how to do that first, right? So here's the other. Here goes some potential competitors of this company in the same market, like pharmaceuticals. So not only does it give you this person's information, it gives you some competitors.
Then we got them to contact too,
Right.
if
That's what
they in
so
the
the word.
areas that we want to move in.
Right. So the word I was going to use for that is the potential competitors of this company are potential leads for you. They're leads.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're leads. So you just click one and it'll go to them. And you do the same thing. So let's click. But see, these are in other parts of the country. Like this person is in Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, Ohio. So it depends on where you want close to you. So Alabama's close to Louisiana. So here's the one in Alabama, Montgomery, Coa Pharmaceuticals. So if you want to stay local to your area or regional to your area, Alabama. Let's see, these other ones are not near you. So and
I stay broke if I stay in my area.
right, right. I'm just saying if you were a broker who wants to, if you want to just focus on your region as a
I
broker,
know.
but if you don't care, you say, okay, well, let me go to the Midwest. Let's go to Ohio. So
Yeah.
let's choose somewhere else and go somewhere else, right? So let's like like this fourth one down, this far left column, the fourth
In
one.
Ohio.
Yep. So you click that one, and now you'll go to that. So oh, this profile is not included with your subscription. Okay, so we would have to go and
To
go
Google and find them.
right and go another route. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
do a search for them though. So, but at least we know the
You
name.
could actually add that though
Right. I was gonna go back up to the top
in
and
the description. It can be added.
yeah.
Okay. So how much does this something like this cost?
Well, it depends on how you put it together. It
Right.
kind of,
I'll get you want me to show her? You want me to show that part, Mr. Ellis?
yeah, go ahead. You can do it better than I can.
So with the let's see. I think I got to log out to show the front part, the front end of that, right? I got to log out.
No, I think you got to just go to the main page.
Okay, so back to the main page and support, training, feedback, account, new features, blog. Let me log out. Let's see. I think on log out, it has the pricing right here, subscription pricing. So once you log out at the top, it has subscription pricing. I'm going to click
Okay.
subscription pricing. So here's the list. Here's the versions of it. So Industry Select comes in basic, basic plus, pro, and pro plus. Those are the four categories. You can get your subscription, pay it either annually, or if you toggle over to the monthly, it'll have the monthly prices for each of those four versions. You know, like that has like that Trucker's Edge, that
Mm-hmm.
Express, things like that.
Yeah.
Same thing with Industry Select. It has different versions of it. And it gives it to you. I'm going back to annual and for your state. You see? it breaks it down for the companies in your state and the executives of those companies in your state. So, like you said, Louisiana, you have because that's going to be your baseline starting point. So I'm assuming Mr. Ellis started with California and then built out from that.
No, I again, because I was kind of, I didn't understand it at one point, and I was kind of, they gave me a couple of suggestions on how to put together the list, and again, not knowing how this thing would work, I figured I was trying to get as much of the country covered as possible. But like you said, you don't even have to do that. You can find a particular area or just a particular industry, and you can live off of that.
Yeah. So let's say, Vancia, you say, okay, I'm out of Louisiana, so there's 5,427 companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 13,029 executives of those 5,427 companies. Now, you're not going to touch all 13,000 executives because
Mm-mm.
not all the
Is in
executives of
shipping.
those, right, not all the executives of those companies are of the interest that you are of, which is shipping, logistics, whatever, right? But just
Mm-hmm.
there's 13,000. Now you would have to decide which version do you want? Basic, basic plus, pro, or pro plus? Well, the question you should be asking, well, what comes with basic? What comes with basic plus? What comes with pro? What comes with pro plus? Well, let's go down. Oh, by the way, you can not only do it in your state, 12-month subscriptions by state, you can do it by region. You can get the data and like if you have a certain region you want to focus on, let's say you want to focus on the Northeast, right? Northeast, North Central, Northeast, West, and all that stuff, or section, or national. So there's different ways you can break it down. Metropolitan areas, industry. Let's say you have a certain industry you want to focus on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that'd be close to us. So you want to have certain industry you want to focus on. Let's say as a broker, you knew what industry of these options, you knew which one you want to target. So you can get your subscription based off of that. So
Okay.
you get with a representative, they're going to have this conversation with you so you can decide how you want to do it. Let's say you have a specific specialty. Let's say you want to go after minority-owned manufacturing businesses. Well, there exist those right here.
Mm-hmm.
Minority-owned. Let's say you are a government contractor, you have SWAM certification, you're a black-owned company, you SWAM
Mm-hmm.
certified MBE, DBE, and you're a broker. And so you say, well, I may have a better advantage targeting minority-owned manufacturing company, letting them know that I'm a black-owned business, I'm a federal contractor, I want to bid on some of your freight. Since you are a minority-owned manufacturing businesses, you may get tax breaks and incentives by hiring me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So out of that, there's 2,667 companies, 6,718 executives. And then you just decide which version of it you want to get, right? Let's say you want to target certain shippers. Well, you have that right here. You can target certain shippers to go after as a broker. Car hauler shippers, dry van freight shippers, expedite hotshot shippers. I'm saying it gets even more detailed. Flatbed freight shippers, hazmat non-tanker LTL shippers, refrigerated shippers. Let's say your niche is in one of these types of shippers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can target that and get a subscription based off of only that. If it were me, I would have done that. I would have just said, huh, I'm a broker. I might as well target specific shippers and get those shipments. Like for example, all drive-in shippers. Well, there are 167,617 drive-in shipper companies. That's a lot. I'm only one
Yeah.
broker. I'm only one broker. Let's say I get about five good ones. That gives me 40 loads a week each. Well, I'm gonna be busy.
Hmm.
So let's say you okay, I don't want to target. Let's say I have a certain executive I want to target. I want to target shipping and warehouse executives. Okay, well, let's get all the shipping and warehouse executives in the country. 11,982 companies and 12,537 executives who are shipping and warehousing executives. So you can build your subscription to Industry Select based off of now your representatives. can tell you that whether you can combine these or not. You can say, okay, well, I want drive-in shippers who are shipping and warehouse executives in minority-based manufacturing companies. You can try to combine them and mix and match. So you can drill down even more specifically. So you can target very specifically what you want. Now,
Okay.
we asked the question didn't get answered. What's the difference between basic, basic plus, pro, and pro plus? Well, let's compare the different versions right here. Compare the versions. So let's scroll down. Here's what they offer. Okay, these are the features. Let's scroll down. I'm not going to read all of them, but no, Pro Plus obviously is the best because it has all features. All the check boxes are checked. But the majority of the check boxes are checked down to right here for all four of them, map up to 50 companies at a time on Bing Maps. But so right there, for all four versions, they're all checked up until that point. So let's go back up to the top and say, okay, well, here's a feature: detailed company profiles with executive names and titles. Okay, all versions do that. Basic, Basic Plus, Pro, and Pro Plus. Well, that's what you want. You want company emails included when available. So if these companies who list themselves and make themselves available on Industry Select, if they provide an email, then Basic, Basic Plus, Pro, and Pro Plus provides that feature. Next, search for companies contact name by contact name, phone, address, brand, web. All four versions do that. Okay, well, I think as a broker, that's a feature you may want to have for your Industry Select subscription, right?
Mm-hmm.
Build unlimited prospect lists by company location, industry, and size. That's interesting. Well, all four versions have that. So in order for you to decide which one you want, basic, basic plus, pro, and pro plus, you would want to go through all these features and see if they meet and check your boxes as a freight broker. Well, what do I want in a company as a broker to look for? And then I'll choose the best versions that meet the most of my criteria. Right. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you're going to have that conversation with the rep of Industry Select. You're going to tell them of all these features. Okay, I think I want this, and I think I want that. Some of these features you may not want, but as you go through it with your rep, they're going to be able to help you decide which version. And then, of course, your budget and affordability. What can you afford either monthly or annually
And you
to pay for, right? I would suggest if you can afford to pay for it annually and you got all the features you want for whichever
don't
version,
get rid of that bill.
I want to get rid of that bill. Exactly. That way you got to worry about it.
Oh, also, remember now you could have more than one user on here. So, but that's like, so let's say two people split the cost. They can have it to where we could all be on one database.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's not exclusive to one individual. You can set it up to where others can access it. So that just means everybody's chipping in on it, you know. So for example, and I'll just put this out there, I paid $2,080 for this one, but look how much is in here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
had I known anybody at the time I got it, I'm like, hey, sound like a good idea. Why don't we, split the cost and everybody got access to 90,000 companies and everybody can have at it.
Now, what version do you have, Mr. Ellis? You have basic, basic plus, pro, or pro plus?
I believe I got
I can log in and
log in and see. I think it's the pro.
I was looking at the difference between Pro and Pro Plus.
And when I got it, it wasn't called. It wasn't pro. It was I think the top was premium. It was I had the
It's
plus version.
yeah, it's almost like you got to get the Pro Plus because you definitely want the top executives' emails.
Mm-hmm.
And they got that on Pro Plus.
And you go to manage database. from them.
Okay, so you got
Basic
plus. Okay, so you got national 5 to 100 employees, 1 million to 50 million in sales. You got basic plus. So Mr. Ellis got basic plus. Let's log out and go to the subscription pricing and look at basic plus. Right. So we're looking at annually and then monthly. So annually, so that basic plus, so which is this column here, the second from the left column. So whichever, I don't know his profile. I don't know what his profile. I don't know if he did it regional, state, section. I don't know what he did when he talked to the rep, how he set it up. But we do know now that he has basic plus. So
well, it's nationwide. It's all over the country.
All over the country. So basic plus. So he has this one right here. So he has all of these features going down this basic plus column all the way down to right here. So Mr. Ellis has access to all of these features right here. Go up a little bit more. Go down a little bit more, I should say.
So there's no difference between basic and basic plus.
Let's just say first, what's very sad about this is we have a lot of
yeah, no, there is. It's the email access sheet.
Okay.
Right. The email features.
Yeah.
Oh, he got one more check right there.
Oh, okay.
Basic. Yeah, so difference between basic and basic plus, he has this extra feature right here. Executive email address is viewable with company profile.
In Central Ohio.
That one extra feature separates basic from basic plus. Right there, that one extra feature.
That's a good deal.
And then
that's a good start.
If you'd have got pro, he would have that plus all of this right here. And then if you'd have had pro plus, we'd have had everything.
This administration is clearly is not connected to the reality of how those people think of her and how
very interesting.
Yeah.
So the software is a very useful software. You have to understand to navigate it. Once you talk to the rep, and they, because I'm assuming they're going to ask you a series of questions from a broker's perspective, asking you, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do with your company? So we can kind of tweak and configure a profile for you in order to get you right profile for this software. So this is a business to business B2B company and contact data of over 350,000 US manufacturers, suppliers, and industrial service providers. That's what Industry Select is. It is the world's leading industry database for sales, marketing, recruiting, and research. So this is it's a good resource because we did a use case where we looked up the company, Louisiana, shipping and warehousing. We got like 33 companies. We opened up one. We looked at their executive people. There were two people in there, Nikki and Robert Bland. We decided Nikki because she was the shipping and warehouse manager and a supply chain person. So from a broker's perspective, we decided that that's the best person to probably initiate the conversation with, and that's how it's done. You got to do the legwork. You have to do the legwork. There's no way around that. It's not.
So let me ask you a question. Would it be feasible, just looking at my vision, would it be feasible, like say for instance, I'm trying to figure out where I can put a telemarketing crew. Would it be feasible for me to build lists for my telemarketers to contact the shippers and try to, or would you say?
That's probably the least cost effective way or the less expensive way because you wouldn't want to get a, let's say, I don't know how many people you're going to have on your telemarketing crew, like 10 people, 5 people. What's your number?
Who knows right now?
Let's say it's 5. I'm not sure you want to have a budget to be able to pay for 5 logins to the same industry select and then just train each user on how to use it and let them go after the shippers. Or you just have your one login, you get the shippers, create that list, and then pass the list out to them and have them call and start the script talking to them.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
I don't want to give up industry secrets to telemarketers. So I'll just do my list myself. I hire somebody to do my list that I trust, and you know how they build the telemarketers call out lists, and then that's where they come in at. And I was going to hire them on commission.
Okay. So instead of, so you calling them telemarketers, why not call them broker agents,
Okay.
freight broker agents, and give them, um, yeah, because broker agents is better sound, and it makes your company look more structured.
Professional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because even though they may be telemarketers, but if you contact them as broker agents and give them a certain percentage of your commission split, and then give them
Hmm.
certain level of training to understanding how your processes work. Of course, they're not going to see your financials as a broker company, but you have them at least do the legwork as far as cold calling, talking to the customers,
Yeah.
getting either a rate quote or laying bid or an interest of a tender, and then you take it from there, and then even teach them how to build the load in your TMS system or a load board. Teach them that part, and then have them follow that load or that account, give them that responsibility so they can earn that commission.
Okay. Step back a little bit. Just a minute. Let me get this up. You said low tender.
Okay,
What did you say?
so when you are dealing with freight broker agents, people who are working under your brokerage to assist you in getting um, customers, right? Getting shippers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways is, of course, cold calling, right? Let's say the
Hmm.
agent cold calls a potential customer, right? And have the conversation, they have a good conversation. And the customer, let's say I'm a customer, and I say to the agent, your agent or your telemarketer, but we're gonna say agent, I say to that,
Hmm.
I say to that telemarketer or agent that, hey, I like how you sound. I'm interested in your services, but let me give you I want to see what your prices are or your rate is. Let me give you either a lane. I want you to bid on a lane or a rate quote, quote or a lane bid in order for me to send you over a load tender. So, in order to get a load tender, if you get a load tender from a shipper, that means that you've won their business and you have to be responsible for moving that freight. That's what
Okay.
load tenders is basically the manifest. It details the load, it says what the rate is, what they're going to pay you, where it's picking up, where it's delivering to, almost like a BOL, but it's from a shipper, right?
Okay.
Um, but prior to getting that load tender, the shipper wants you to prove yourself to them. So they're going to give you a lane and say, "Hey, quote me this lane. What would you do this lane for?" And see if I'm impressed by that. So you'll say, "Okay, well, let me get your email. I give you my email, and then I send you the information about the lane. Okay, where it's picking up from, Norfolk, Virginia, going to Atlanta, Georgia for a drive-in. This is the commodity. This is the weight. This is the accessorials. All the stuff that you need according to how you asked me in the email. So the more detailed information you ask me about the lane, the better the quote I can give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, because you want to get as much and specific information as possible in order
So
to.
I'm getting this I'm fortifying the questions to to get from the shipper so that I can provide the lane quote.
That's correct. So when you talk to the shipper or your agent talk to the shipper or you, so let's say your agent had a good conversation, they hung up and they come to you, the broker, and say, "Hey, Vancia, I just got this shipper interested in our services, but they want me to provide a lane quote or a rate bid." And you say, "Okay, well, I got a list of questions, like a template I've already established because I got experience over time. I've established
Mm-hmm.
I've established this template of questions that I normally ask. Okay, well, what are some of the base? So if I'm a shipper and I want you to quote me a lane, what are some of the basic things that you would need from me in order to provide me a quote? Well, you would need
Required equipment, the commodity,
where it picks up from, where it delivers
the
to.
origin and the destination.
Okay, anything else?
Uh,
Is it an appointed? Is it a first come first serve, or is it an appointment time? Um,
mhm.
who's the contact? Who's the POC at the shipper? Who's the POC at the receiver? Point of contact, name, email, phone number. Um, is this a straight through, or is it multiple pickup, multiple loads? Are there any accessorials? If so, do you have an accessorial policy on detention, layover, lumper? You got to go through those things too because you want to provide the best quote. So the more information you have, the better you can provide a quote. Because the more information means you got to factor in more to give the best rate. Now you're going to get the data for the rate from a load board, one of the resources. You go to a load board, you put that same lane in the load board, and you see what other brokers out there are paying to the trucks for that lane, for that equipment type, right? And then you take that number and you put your percentage or your profit margin or what we call margin on top of that, right? So
Okay.
let's say your margin, let's say for every load you move for a shipper, you want to make at least 15 or 20% profit. So you put a 15,
Mm-hmm.
so you would put a 15 or 20% margin on, let's say the load board said that they paid $3,000 for that lane, for that um Norfolk, Virginia to Atlanta, Georgia lane for a flatbed going in that direction. Let's say it was $3,000. So now you put 20% on top of that. So what's 20% of $3,000?
It is, I
What's
believe,
two what's two times three?
600.
600.
600.
Yeah. So there you go. So you would put 600 on top of the 3,000. So that's 3,600, right? 3,600.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you go, would you quote 3,600 to the shipper, or would you put a little bit more on that? You like say 4,000.
I'm a I'm gonna put a little bit more.
Right, because you want some wiggle room because the shipper's going to try to come down. You say, "Okay, you quoted me 4,000. Can you do 37?"
Exactly.
Right. You probably can because your threshold, if you will, was 36.
Was 36. Yep.
So, but that's how that
Okay.
now you go back to the shipper and you say, "Okay, um, here's my rate quota, here's my main bid. It's 4,000. I'm gonna say that's a little bit high. I'm willing to negotiate. I got some wiggle room. I'm flexible. Can you do 37?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because your threshold was 36. Remember? 3,000
Yeah.
plus $600 profit margin. So you made an extra $100 on top of your $600 profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got that. So now I'm going to send you over what's called a load tender for you
Okay.
to either sign and accept or not sign and reject. So if you accept the load tender by signing it and returning it to me, the shipper, that means you are responsible for moving that load.
Uh,
Okay? That's what load tenders are. And it's going to have the details of what we just discussed. All the information, where it's picking up from, who the point of contact is, everything. Right?
okay.
And it's going to have a rate of the load tender is going to be 30, let's say what we agreed to, 3,700. 3,700. So now you, the broker, have a 3,700 load tender from your customer, me. Now you have to get a carrier to move it for whatever rate you're going to pay the carrier. Well, you remember when you were on the load board, you saw the average rate that the brokers were paying to the
Was
truck
3,000.
was 3,000. You have 3,700. If it were me, I would post it for maybe 32, 3,300, an extra $200, $300, so that carriers bang down my door trying to move this freight. I'm still going to make a little profit off of it because I got 3,700 in it. I'm posting it for 33. So that's a $400 difference, a $400 spread.
So, so let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Am I able to, or I still don't understand what double brokering is, but am I able to post it multiple times with multiple quotes?
You can,
Like say,
you could post it multiple times on multiple load boards with the same rate, or you could post it multiple times on multiple load boards with different rates. But be careful
that's what I was asking.
because carriers have access to various load boards, and if they see the same broker posting the same load on different load boards at different rates, they're going to wonder what are they trying to do? What's going on here? If you're going to do that, I will be consistent with the number. So let's say I posted it for 3,300. I got it from a shipper, me, for 3,700. I posted on DAT, Truck Stop, 123 for 3,300, right? And
Mm-hmm.
same rate, all different load boards. One carrier who has access to all those load boards see it from the same broker, On Point Logistics, you, and call you and say, "Hey, I really want this load because it's paying more than the average pay is for this lane. The average pay is 3,000. You're paying 3,300. That's an extra $300. I want that load." So
But then that's cutting into my profit.
it is, but not that much. I mean, you got it for 37. You're posting for 33, so you're still going to make $400, right? Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to happen. You're going to get carriers. I would take a little hit. I mean, if you move a load as a broker, which all you're doing is just pushing paperwork for $400
Mm-hmm.
profit, you mean tell me you got a problem with that? You got a problem with that moving that you're not making no more than so you got a truck to move it for 3,300. So when that truck turns in the paperwork to get paid and you invoice the shipper, you're going to invoice the shipper for 3,700 and you're going to pay the carrier the 3,300 according to the rate con that you guys have, and you're going to keep the 400. Everybody's happy. The carrier's happy, the customer's happy because their customer got the load. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the shipper, so I'm going to give you more loads. So now it gets into the concept of volume. So
Okay.
if you can move 10 of those a week, right? If you can move 10 of those a week, 3,700 per tender, 3,300 to the carriers, $400 profit to you, the broker. You making $400 profit per carrier, and you got 10 loads a week that you're moving. So that's 400 times 10 is 4,000. You mean tell
Mm-hmm.
me you can't live off of $4,000 a week?
If you can, you got a problem.
Cannot, you have a problem. And that's just one shipper giving you 10 loads a week. Imagine if you had five shippers doing that, giving you 10 loads a week.
Okay.
So now you got five times 10. So you got 50 loads, 50 trucks you got to move. So now you're making 4,000 times five. You're making 20,000 a week as a broker moving loads at a $400 profit. I'm just using
We
numbers.
slanging, we slanging loads.
You slanging loads. You better than a cartel drug dealer, right? So, but let's say it's just $100. Let's say you made $100 profit. Let's say you gave it. Let's say the broker, I mean the customer gave it to you at 37. And let's be realistic. Let's say $200 profit. $200 profit is as a broker.
Better than no
If you
profit.
make a $200 profit as a broker, you're doing pretty good these days. So let's say, for example, 3,700, and then you post it for 35. They're gonna jump on it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna move it. You're gonna make $200
And it's
profit.
gonna make you look good to the shipper
Correct. So
because you moved it fast.
10 loads a week for that one customer, 10 carriers at 2,000 at $200 per carrier. That's 2,000 a week for one customer. You got five of them. So 2,000 times 5 is 10,000 a week. You mean tell me you can't live off of
Wow.
10,000 a week? 10,000, and you're only making a $200 profit for each load that you move. But you got carriers banging down your door, calling you, emailing you, saying, "Hey, man, when can I get my next load? When is that next load coming?"
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have a problem. The more you give to the carrier, the less likely you're going to have a problem finding a carrier to move a load for you.
I was just gonna say, because then at some point you should be able, as a broker, you should be able to call carriers and say, "Hey, you got anybody in this area empty? You know, I got
Or
a
or
lane
email.
for you."
Or email. You may not even have to call.
Hmm.
They're gonna call you. You're not gonna have a need to call. They're gonna call you or they're gonna email you. Hey man,
Okay.
I got a truck empty because you're gonna have large or mid-sized trucking companies who have 10 trucks that wants to move all your loads themselves, which is
Hmm.
the best scenario as a broker. I would rather have my one shipper with 10 loads use one trucking company with 10 assets to move it than to have 10 individual owner
10
operators
different,
all over the place,
yeah,
right? Does
yeah.
that make sense, guys? Think about that for a second. If you get one customer that gives you 10 loads a week, would it not be easier to have one trucking company with more than 10 assets, 10 trucks, and you're giving them a fair rate for each truck to move it? So now you're dealing with one trucking company under one umbrella, and they have 10 assets, and you're moving all your shippers' loads for that one trucking company. And you only
That's
got
a personal.
and you only got to onboard them one time and not 10 times. Because remember,
Yeah.
because it's one trucking company. It's not 10 individual owner operators. It's one carrier, one trucking company with 10 assets. So that's easier for you as a broker. Think about that. Let's make our process a little bit easier. Let's streamline our process. Don't make it hard for yourself, make it easier.
Hmm.
You see? So now this is getting into the nuts and bolts of it when you start getting this at this level, right? Most brokers, they'll chase individual owner operators and not think about the process, especially if you have a large contingent or a large volume of shipments and tenders by the customer to move. You would, if it were me, I would target a carrier who has multiple assets first before I go after owner operators with just one or two.
So, so the shipments that we're getting from the shippers are lanes that's run consistently. They're not one and dones.
Yeah. There's no way a shipper can give you a one and done lane. Shippers have customers all over the country, and they consistently have customers to move their finished products to. They don't just move their finished products to a customer one time and be over with. If they did that, they wouldn't be in business very long. You see? You understand what I'm saying though? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it is. Shippers don't yeah, shippers move in volume. That's how they survive. That's why they're
Yeah,
so
they not at the bottom of the tadpole.
that's why they gross in the millions of dollars annually, like
Yes,
10,
yeah.
$15 gross. So
Okay, now I see. I see the picture now.
yeah,
Very good.
yeah, so okay. Well,
Very
I
good.
didn't mean to hold you guys this long, but are there any final questions before we get off? But this is good information though. So
Yes. Now let me ask you this. Okay, we have industry select before you go, just to be fair about the market. What other CRMs are out there like this?
so most CRMs are built into the TMS systems, the transportation management software like Ascend, eFreight Solutions, uh, uh, those large TMS systems, transportation management softwares. You know,
Sin used to be simple. They made some changes. It's too complicated now.
well, not as well. I guess so. I guess so. But there's others out there. You got. Let me go to my TMS systems here on the screen. And so in addition to, yeah, we got see Aljex, Blue Yonder, DAT broker TMS. They have a built-in. DAT has an integrated TMS system. Truckstop has an integrated TMS system. You got Ascend, you have Alvis, Blue Yonder is a good one, Load Pilot, Rose Rocket, Trucker Tools. So there's just tons and tons. I mean, I listed
Okay.
E-Freight Solutions, uh, there's this whole contingent of Aljex, of TMS systems out there. Load Manager. The largest one is McLeod.
Yeah, I worked in McLeod. I did billing in with McLeod, so I'm familiar with McLeod.
Yeah, so they offer like when I my broker mentor who's been doing it for over close to 25, 30 years, his McLeod subscription, because he has so many large shippers, cost him, and believe it or not, 25,000 a month.
Oh my God.
But he was huge. So yeah. But
Yeah, I was doing
he doesn't
billing
he
for
doesn't he
Coach
doesn't broker
America Crew Transport
he doesn't
in
broker anything
McLeod.
like that. He doesn't broker anything like that anymore. I mean, he's pretty much set for life. He don't have to do anything. He'd be okay.
So one more question before you go. There used to be a book. I remember you mentioning it once before, um, in another class that that uh, that lists all the shippers in the U.S. What's the name of that book?
It's not a book per se. It's more of a PDF. I had it back here in the portal, I believe. You talk about the national shippers list.
Yes, National Shippers List.
And it's and it comes out every so often. Let's go into tools and resources and see if it's there. Um, I may have one that's kind of dated. Right now, like I got a 2020 shippers list, a 2022 shippers list. This is in spreadsheet format. Um,
Hmm.
what's the other one? Yeah, it's the national. Hey, let's go to Google database shippers list or something like that. Let me go out of here. Back to the website and let's see what's the name of that. What do they call it? It's on the tip of my tongue, but it'll come as I type it in. National shippers, national shippers contact list. Maybe it. Shippers list for brokers. Well, here's one. Seamless AI. Shippers contact list. We got agricultural ones. There's a few of them out there. The one I'm looking for, some of them have built in, like Truckstop has a shippers list, 20,000, 26,000 shippers list. I got a Virginia shippers directory, which is agricultural, like watermelons and fruits and stuff like that. There's so many of them out here. A lot of them though are their purchase list. You have to buy them, right? And
Okay.
a lot of the data is stale, which means outdated. So you have to be careful.
Mm,
You have to be careful when you're dealing with that. But here's a way around that. So you got seamless AI, find shippers and brokers lightning fast. So you can use AI technology now. Seamless AI, find shippers and freight brokers lightning fast. So you can sign up for free. Tired of using the same shippers list and phone directories like everyone else and getting nowhere? Gain an edge over the competition by adding seamless AI to your arsenal today. So you sign up, it's for free, and utilize that. Or how it works to speed up prospecting. Add it to Chrome, seamless AI, the AI technology. Add it to Chrome, browse the web, and then score key information. Chat GPT. You can pretty much
hmm.
put Chat GPT
Yeah,
and
you could ask for all the shippers in the area or something
right
like
there you
that.
go. So AI technology, use it to your advantage. Have the knowledge, but use it to your advantage. You know, let's say freight shippers in how you spell Louisiana? Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's doing its thing. It's thinking major freight shipping companies in Louisiana. And now it's listing them.
Mm-hmm.
Acme Truck Line, Saia, LTL, Averett Express, Cowtown Logistics, Freight Louisiana Logistics. So it's giving you that. You see.
Okay.
So utilize chat. So with ChatGPT, you got to be. So with any AI technology,
Specific.
you got to
You got to
be
be specific.
very specific as possible, detailed as possible. When you're giving commands to a computer, you have to be, because computers are literal. They're not figurative. They're literal. So what you literally say, they're going to literally give you. So you have to be as literally specific as possible. Just keep that in mind. So you can say, freight shippers in
List
Louisiana
list
who,
all the freight shippers.
yeah,
Use the
list,
word all.
or you can say freight, or get specific with it. List freight shippers in Louisiana who ship cotton or ship this from this city on
Mm-hmm.
this day at that, or whatever, right? And then you just get very specific with it when you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the AI technology. All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully this was good information for you guys. Thank you, Mr. Ellis, for
Yeah,
allowing us to browse your
Thank you.
software.
yeah, no problem. And the broker carrier summit was good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you went. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was good. In
Good.
fact, I mean, there's so many. It's a lot going on. There's a lot, you know. Uh, you can bounce around from, from speaker to speaker if you want, depending on what you already know or what other information you might be trying to get a hold of. In fact, I just spoke with somebody this morning who's I missed her session because we got there late. We didn't get into town until like 1. Her session was at 10 that morning. But her name is Melanie Patterson, and she helps, or I didn't see, I can't say because I didn't get a chance to sit through her session because I got there late, but she set up a Zoom call with me today earlier. She just kind of breaking down government contracting and all that kind of stuff. Just, additional information, among other people that I met, cards I got, and sessions that I sat in on. But yeah, like I said, it was a lot, because it's a week-long event. So there's a lot. Well, let me see. Well, actually, let me see. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 3 solid days of just all day sessions. Um, yeah, just people from all parts of the industry, heavy AI and people that are in the AI industry and how it, affect on transportation. Just like I said, it was just so much information to be had there. It was good.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Any information you can email me or get to me, I'll be about that.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, without a doubt. I got it. It's all at home. I got the cards and stuff like that. I sent out some messages. I believe it was last week when I got back. A couple people got back to me. And then and a lot of these people send you follow up emails anyway. Because once you're in and you're registered with the summit, everybody that's a part of it, as far as the I guess the speakers or have access to like the information that's in there as far as your email goes, and then they'll send you emails either before you get there, and then of course after you left, just as a follow up. So yeah, so without a doubt.
Okay. Very good. I'm glad you had a chance to attend it and got some good information, it seems like, from it as well.
Yeah, and still gathering.
Okay. Yeah. And such is life, right? We're always gathering information.
Yeah, yeah. Without a doubt.
So this Friday will be the next Zoom training, 6 p.m. Unless something happens, but I doubt it. We should be able, I should be here Friday to be able to have a Zoom training. So, okay. So guys, thank you. Thank you very much. I will have this video in our library later this evening or early tomorrow morning. And enjoy the rest of your week. And I will see you on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you.
All righty.